It's going to take a transition though into your health. Right? Because
Okay.
I know you're a bit of a health nut. You used to race bikes. You ran marathons. You and I have climbed the Grand Canyon together. So how important is health to you? What does that look like? I know now you're teaching yoga and have your yoga practice, but also, how do you feel that's affected your business? Because when you talk about tenacity, well, dude, you were a marathon runner.
Right.
Who the hell can do that?
Yeah.
Right? It keeps you going. So talking about the correlation between your health and your business and success.
Well, I think it's I pick sports that are suffering. Marathons, mountain climbing. There's no easy mountain and there's no short marathon. So, but I think that goes back to being an entrepreneur. And I think that when you look at the psychology behind it, behind the health and behind the entrepreneur spirit, is that people like that adversity. And so for me personally, I'm 46 in a month, right? So if my average lifespan is 85, I'm fully mobile till I'm 75. So that gives me less than 10,000 days is how much longer I have to live. So my health today is infinitely more important than it was 2 years ago. Yeah. And, when I look at where those ailments are, because I look at what's it like to be a healthy 75-year-old? What's it like to be a healthy 65-year-old? Because I've lived a very fortunate life, especially the last 10 years, right? I enjoyed the money we made. I lived off the money that we made. And, but now I've got 10,000 days. So what am I going to do with those 10,000 days? So radically changing my diet, trying not to drink as much Corona as I used to, but I don't want to give it up. I don't want to give that or pizza up. Right. I do Corona Light. So, but I think that mental health is just as important. And that's something that I really learned coming out of the REO. I drank a lot more in REO than I do now, but moving forward in my life, right, I like to be calm. I don't like road rage or anything like that. So it's about mental health for me. I do a phenomenal amount of meditation. That's why I practice yoga so much. And I think that if your mind is right, so many other things fall into place. And, when I coach people privately or, just personally as a friend, I always kind of just talk to them about it, because what somebody's misconceptions are about, meditation or prayer or yoga or CrossFit, whatever it may be, if they just take a second and then put it in the right frame of mind, I think that they realize how much more beneficial it is for them. And if they're really, truly doing it the right way.
So when you meditate, is your meditation formed through yoga, or do you meditate separately from yoga?
I meditate separately. So, yoga in itself was the asana, which is what everybody's so familiar with now, right? That's what you wear your Lulus for. That was a practice to exhaust the body so your mind can calm. So when people talk to me and they're like, yeah, I just can't meditate, I just can't sit still. I'm like, great, well, when are you doing it? I'm doing it first thing in the morning. I'm like, that's perfect. There's a lot of books that say you should do that first thing in the morning, because that's traditionally when it's done right after you do your morning sun salutations. So the first thing you should do is you should exercise. Then you should meditate, or then you should sit quietly, right? And reflection is important, but that's not meditation. That's reflection. Yeah. Reflection is journaling. And it's as simple as how you sit, right? So, meditation, you sit erect. You sit with your chin up. You don't look down, because when you look down, you're reflecting. When you look medium down, that's why we look at our phones, right? We look at our phones this way. Nobody holds up their phone that way. So it's more about where your head is, and then where is your eyes, right? Are they going straight forward? Well, now you're looking at the future. So if you look up a little bit, and that's why when you see a lot of images, people are looking up, because that's meditation, because that's what you're trying to do, is just look a little bit in. And then I think people overthink it. They're like, oh, I can't get the stuff out of my mind. I can't get the stuff out of my mind. Well, yeah, that's the whole idea, right? Trees don't stop blowing in the wind. They always move. So it's okay that stuff comes into your mind. Just push it right back out. That's the whole idea. And
they say, I don't know, have you read The Willpower Instinct?
No, I have not. But
brilliant book, dude, and it goes in there. It's this Harvard doctorate that talks about proven ways to increase your willpower and self-discipline, and it's through the growth of the frontal cortex. The human species is the only species that can actually expand a frontal cortex. And he says the number one way is through meditation, and it's because of the shift and the drift. Thoughts coming in, having awareness, and shifting it back is what expands that. So people get frustrated with that, but it's like you said, that's where the power is, dude.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you've ever had a conversation with a nun, you know instantly this is a person who's not just more at peace with themselves, but they are incredibly intelligent. They have a lot of reflection, and they, you know, they don't just have their faith. They have their faith in they're a concert pianist, or they're a concert cellist, or they'll do this or they'll do that. And the reason why they do is because they have so much time to self-reflect. You know, it's exactly what you said, because when your mind is expanding in one way, it opens it up, so it's a lot easier to deal with stuff. Right?
Yeah,
I talked to a friend, he threw his phone against the wall, and I'm like, man, I've broken so many phones. I'm like, if I could share one thing with you today, let's talk about this, right?
Yeah.
So.
No, I did. You know, I mean, today with technology, with the way things are, I mean, it's great because now we can work anywhere, and it gives us we're able to do more with less, but we're always available, right? So I mean, we're acquiring ADD. Every human being's acquiring ADD,
Yes.
and I know that, and that's where I feel like meditation's helped me the most, dude. Is
Mm-hmm.
now I'm like the power's in the now. I'm focused in the now. I'm never thinking about the past or the future.
Mm-hmm.
It's like let's just focus on the now, which I never did before meditation. But I had massive resistance, which I think a lot of entrepreneurs do. I was like, dude, I'm a fucking entrepreneur, not a hippie. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not going to sit here and meditate, right?
Right.
But then I read the willpower instinct. I'm like, okay, well, to get where I want to go, I need to increase my willpower and self-discipline. So let me go. And then, holy crap,
Yeah.
it was a game changer. Do you ever do like the sensory deprivation tanks or any of that?
I haven't yet. You know, it's funny. One of the reasons why I prefer to do hot yoga is that it's a lot of sensory deprivation.
Yeah.
So, you know, I haven't done any of the tanks here locally. I've done a tank out of the state. But I think that if you can learn to push certain things out, right? So one of the reasons why I like marathons, one of the reasons why I like mountain climbing, and one of the reasons why I love running the canyon, well, up until recently, your cell phones didn't work in the canyon, right? So people are like, why are you going all the way to Africa? I'm like, because I have to leave my phone here,
Yeah.
right? And in a yoga practice in the room, you don't bring a phone in, right? And when I teach, if somebody touches their phone, I'm like, you know, I'm not that teacher. I'm not that nice, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we're here for a reason, and you're distracting everybody else in the room, so you can take that outside. But I think that it forces you to disconnect, and you know, that sensory deprivation, you can get that at home. It's a lot easier for me. My kids are older, right? So I think that is, I try never be naive and tell people where they should or they shouldn't meditate, because if you've got children, zero chance that's happening.
Yeah.
Like, there's zero chance. And if it is sometime when they're asleep, and, you know, then technically your mind's probably somewhere else. So, like I said, I don't do meditation first thing. It's probably the fifth thing on my list in the morning, because I want to clear stuff out of my head.
Yep.
Right?
Yep. I like it, man. So when it comes to hot yoga, man, it's something that I've got a big interest in because I've been studying a lot. I just started cryotherapy recently, and you know, I do the steam room, not the dry sauna as much because I've got this dry eye issue and shit, right? So, but there's different hot and warm proteins that are released in your chemicals only when your body's under that certain stress. So they're saying that, you know, not only hot yoga do you obviously get the flexibility, which of course a lot of males suffer with immensely,
Yes.
which I'm the same way. Like, I can barely touch my damn kneecaps. What are some of the benefits of hot yoga?
Well, I think that, you know, flexibility is the key to life, right? So as we get older, like, you not being able to touch your knees, A, shocks me, but B, worries me. So
It's not quite that.
I didn't think so. But I think that instantly, because of the opportunity of the heat in the room, and you know, there's hot and then there's heated, and working out in a cold environment, you know, I think that the only thing I would have a problem with CrossFit is I don't think the rooms are warm enough. I think it's a fantastic practice. And I look at it as a practice. I don't necessarily look at it as a workout. But I think that any time that you can work out in a heated environment, it allows your body to breathe a little bit more. And so with hot yoga, it forces you to focus on your breath, because there's no short breaths, right? Yeah. And so whether it's yoga or Tai Chi, any movement that directly connects with your breath, and that's one of the reasons why I like CrossFit, you know, because basketball used to be, you know, you shoot and you exhale, but people now don't stop to think, right? Everybody wants to be something that they've seen on television as opposed to just trying to be a good player. But if you're really good at a sport, you control your breath. But it's hard. So if you golf, you should be controlling your breath, but people talk, they drink.
Right.
You're distracted, right? Bicycling in this town at this point, you're just taking your life in your hands, and that's not even worth it. So Runners have a really good opportunity to do that too, and you get that runner's high. But that's kind of the same aspect, right? Is that you're just focused on your breath. But with the hot yoga, with the heat and the humidity, it forces you to focus on your breath. And almost every practice, they'll do a breathing exercise in the beginning of the class.
Yeah. So you're not only just a practitioner, but you also went out there, got certified. You're like, man, this is such a big game changer. I'm going to go out there and get certified and teach it and coach others on it. And so how often are you doing that right now?
Phenomenally right now. I'm on the schedule 6 times a week, and I practice a minimum of 7 times a week. So I don't necessarily always practice every single day. Sometimes I'll do 2 classes in a day and take a day off, but I practice 7 times a week.
So when you're teaching it, dude, are you actually doing it with them, or you have to be like very strategic and make sure everybody's form's good?
I practice from standing and I walk around, so that brings back out the coaching to me. And it's funny because I didn't become a certified teacher to actually teach yoga, and then I was in a class and I followed one of the yogis here in town. And I realized that there are some yogis that I follow a lot more, and it's not the yogis who I'm impressed with their practice. It's the yogis who make me feel better when I walk out of that class. And that's what really changed my intention of teaching is that when you walk out of my class, you feel like $1 million. And so I can't do that if I'm all the way up front. So if I have to demonstrate, I'll demonstrate a pose, but people should be listening to my words and then following those with actions. And if I can't walk you through a practice, then that's on me as a teacher. And it's the same thing with running the team, right? If I can't walk you through what your daily activities are and holding you accountable, then I'm not doing my job right. And so that's, for me, it's the same thing, right? I really didn't. It's a different environment. I like running the teams because it's like teaching a class.
Yep.
Because on a team, they're there, right? Coaching independent agents through a brokerage wasn't as much fun. It wasn't as fulfilling to me as I thought it was going to be, simply because real estate agents enjoy being an entrepreneur, and while everybody says they want to coach, nobody wants the accountability of a coach, right? Because they have this image of what a coach is, either through high school football or the NFL, but they see the coach, are like, oh yeah, the guy's got him out there, they're there for practice, they're there for the game. This is real estate, or this is your business. There's not 2 hours and 3 hours on Sunday, right? So it is that's where I think people really have that tough time understanding what coaching's about and accountability is about. And so when I was a consultant, and I still do some, I called the guy this morning on the way in. I was like, how's it going? He's like, great. I'm like, good. I'm like, did you make your phone calls this week? He's like, I haven't gotten off to the start. I'm like, okay, well, you just left a team, and now you're going to be independent, but you left the team because you didn't want that accountability because you could do it on your own. But you haven't.
Yeah.
I'm like, so I've got 1 more minute to talk before I have to walk into this. And I was literally walking into here. I'm like, so I'll call you next week, and you're going to have all your calls done, right? I'm like, because I got to make my calls, so you got to do your calls. And I think that, being a yoga teacher, I can hold people accountable right then and there. And they're there for that hour.
Love it.